You're about to learn everything about control and finesse in pickleball. If you've been struggling with your opponent's spin shots, their hard shots, you can't block quite right, the chaos is getting to you and you just can't quite control that ball, this is the video for you. I know it's a long one. Pop it on the TV, cook some food, do some laundry, whatever you got to do. Stick with me. You're about to learn how to finally control that pickleball. Let's get started. Where we want to begin is with principles. As always, first principles are very important. I've got two definitions for you that are going to help. This is the foundations of it all. This is principle stuff. First is control and finesse. What is control? I mean, if you think about it, it's like we can look up a definition, but in pickleball, I've got a unique definition for you that I think is going to help. Control is effectively this idea that no matter what our opponent does, we can respond the way we wish. That's pretty cool. That gives us a lot of power and a lot of control. No matter what our opponent does, if we understand the mechanics of the game properly, we can respond in any way we wish. A classic example, of course, are drives, hard shots that are hit right at us. I've got that later on in the video. Don't worry, we'll go over that. But that's a really big part of this. No matter how hard they hit that ball at us, we can learn to then respond accordingly the way we wish, regardless of how they intend. That is such a big deal. That gives us a lot of power on the court. The second thing here is understanding pace, very similar to control. If we don't understand how hard or how powerful that ball is coming into us, we can't respond accordingly. Control and pace go with each other. And when we understand those two things, we really begin to take our game to the next level. And that's the whole goal here, of course. So let's get started with some examples.
So to explain this clip, I just want to show you both clips here are the same thing, effectively. I'm about 6 feet off the kitchen line, and then my buddy Ryan here is right on the kitchen line. What he's going to do is he's going to throw a pickleball at me, and then I'm going to react to it based on the pace that comes in. This will explain everything. This explains how all this works. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play this slow motion here. So on the top clip, he throws the ball very softly, but on the bottom clip, he throws it hard. And what I want you to do is I want you to notice how when I hit the ball, both of those shots go around to the same spot. You see that? So let me just show it to you again. Let me back up. So he throws the ball. I hit the shot, and they both land in around the same spot. But isn't that interesting, though? Because what you noticed is that he threw the ball softly in the top clip, but he threw the ball hard in the bottom clip. So what was the difference? You see, that's finesse based on this new definition that we had, because I was able to hit the ball exactly where I wanted, regardless of what he did, right? So how did I do that? The important thing to notice here is my paddle. I want you to watch the movement in both of these paddles right here. So I'm going to play the clip again. I want you to watch very carefully. I see what's coming in. I notice his body language. I know that he threw the ball hard or he threw the ball soft. And if we look at the top clip, focus on the top clip real quick. Because I know the ball is coming in softly, I have to push the ball forward in order to get it over the net. You see how that works? So it's coming in nice and soft. And because it's coming in soft, it's going to come off soft. So thus, I have to give it a little bit more power for it to clear the net. You see? Now, let's focus on the bottom clip. As you can see, he throws the ball much harder. And because of that, I have to trust the fact that I don't have to hit the ball very hard. So instead of actually striking through the ball like I did on the bottom clip, I'm just going to nudge it a little bit. I take the paddle back into me and just a light little nudge like this. And both of these shots land in around the same spot. Before you can do any kind of finesse shot, you have to understand what's coming in the first place. And this clip is what really describes it. I want you guys just to watch this clip. And what you can do is you can go out and practice with someone and do this. You're going to see a lot more of this as we go. But this is pace. This is the foundation of it all. You can't go any further with finesse and touch in pickleball unless you understand this. So when you go out and drill, you go out and play and do all that sort of stuff, keep this in the back of your head. It's going to make a world of difference.
So if we want to learn how to really absorb pace or even redirect pace, have better resets, have better control, we need to learn how to actually grip the paddle. That paddle grip is very, very important. In reality, what we're going for here is something we call soft hands. It's basically the opposite of having a death grip on the paddle. If we're holding the paddle with all our might, we're gonna probably pop up the ball and not have as much control. But if we really learn how to loosen up on that grip, we're going to be much more successful with control. So let's get started with the grip. I want you to notice my thumb and my index finger. Notice how my thumb and my index finger create a capital V. That capital V is pointing towards my chin or towards the logo on my chest. My logo is centered on my shirt here. So notice how that's pointed at my chin or my chest, whatever you want to say. Also notice how my paddle is not slanted to either direction like this, so you can see it very, very clearly. You can see how the paddle itself also aligns with this grip. That's the neutral grip or the continental grip. For most finesse shots, this is where you want to be. The other thing that you can do is grab your paddle as usual. Make sure you have that continental grip. So again, let me just show it to you from this angle. This is kind of what it looks like here. Make sure you've got that thumb around here. Don't do this stuff where your thumb is on top of the thing like that. Wrap that thumb on around and just relax and put your paddle down by your side like this. Just relax, okay? Now, slowly but surely, start to let go of that paddle. What you'll notice is that your fingers begin to crawl up the paddle diagonally like this. So instead of holding onto it like a hammer, like this, they're instead going to come up diagonally like that. That is the grip. Just allow it to fall down by your side. Relax, relax, and let that grip come up like this. That is how you position your hand on the handle itself. In terms of your general ready position, the ready position is very important because it does affect your grip, or most importantly, it affects when you want to change your grip. Yes, changing your grip is just fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You really want to be holding the paddle at the very bottom like this. So notice how not choked up like that, but at the very bottom. This gives you more power, but most importantly, it allows that. And this is so important these days, in my opinion. I highly recommend to start holding the paddle with two hands, regardless of whether you want to start doing a two-hander or not. The reason why this is so powerful is because it makes it very easy to change my grip. So if I want to change my grip to a more topspin grip, all I got to do is just let go with my right hand. My paddle stays the same. So imagine I'm at the kitchen line here, right? And I'm ready to go, right? The ball's coming over and I need to change my grip. You hardly even notice me do that. I just changed my grip and you probably didn't even see it too much, right? That's what makes it so powerful. It's so exciting to me. Whereas if I'm just holding with one hand, I gotta like kind of let go and sort of toss it up in the air. This makes it so much easier, and by extension, it makes finesse, touch, and blocking shots much, much easier as well. Start holding the paddle with two hands. The way you do this, you get your middle finger and your ring finger, and you wrap it around on top of your forehand grip here, like this. Wrap your thumb around to touch your middle finger, and then place your index on that, and that's it. That's all you got to do. Again, don't be intimidated by this, okay? If you're here in your ready position, you can easily just take your hand off to do the stroke. And even with the backhand, it's the same thing. I want you to just walk around your house and get used to holding the paddle like this. Just, you know, if you're cooking pasta or whatever, I've done this analogy a million times because this is what I used to do when I first started pickleball. But if you're cooking pasta or whatever, just be there watching your pasta and just do this and just hold it like this and just get used to this feeling, because if you're not doing this right now, it's going to be really awkward for a while. That's totally fine, but get used to holding the paddle this way. I highly recommend it It's a very, very good idea. Here's the first thing that we're gonna do with the grip. Here's what I want you to practice when it comes to finesse. The vast majority of people hold this paddle way too hard. So here's what you're gonna do. Hold your paddle just like I told you how to do. But instead what you're gonna do is take your middle ring and pinky finger off of the paddle, and you're just gonna practice with your thumb and your index finger, and we're just gonna dink back and forth here. And you're hardly gonna be able to hit the ball. It feels very, very unusual, but this is going to give you the feeling that you need. So just keep doing this. And this in reality is what soft hands feels like, because that's what I'm going to be trying to teach you guys how to do, how to have soft hands. And this is what replicates that. Now, once you're ready, begin to put those fingers back onto the paddle, but very slowly. So I want to show you what this looks like here. I'm just barely putting them on like this. See? Just barely on there, but I'm still holding it with the index and the thumb, and I'm just gonna keep going, keep dinking like this. And then when you're ready, go ahead and put all those fingers back on, but leave that index and the thumb grip on there. And also go ahead and put your second hand on top. Practice this. Whenever you go dinking, never, ever, ever forget to warm up or practice like this. This is what gives you that soft hands feeling. The other part of the grip is what happens when we have the paddle out in front of us in that ready position. So here it is. This is the most important thing you must understand. It has to be in your peripheral vision. So as I'm pointing towards my drilling partner here, the paddle is pointed directly at him. If it's cross court, it's directly cross court as well. And then when we hit the ball, we always come back here. Don't be like this or like this, even though people rarely do that, but don't do this. Don't be like this, because you're leaving your forehand open. The key to understanding the grip here is we want to have the shortest and most efficient movements possible. Notice how I'm always coming back here. Since I'm always in that neutral position, that way I have the most efficient and shortest route possible to hitting the ball. Whereas if Charles hits one to my forehand here and I'm like this, then I have to get my paddle all the way around to hit that shot. Whereas if I start neutral, I'm starting from the most balanced position possible. Soft hand is much easier to do in drilling than it is in a real match. It is not easy. But what will train you to have soft hands is by using that index and that thumb. And get used to that in a warm-up setting. And then during a match, just remind yourself to do that more often. So let's get into more details about the swing. You have to learn how to take slower, more methodical swings when it comes to the stroke. In pickleball, if you are taking short, stabby little strokes like this, all you're going to do is increase the variability of the swing. All right, so on one moment, I can hit the ball too far, and the other moment, I can hit the ball perfectly if I'm just doing these like short little jerky motions like this. Every now and then, you're gonna have to short hop where you flick your wrists and all that sort of stuff. That's going to happen. But in general, you really want to try to avoid any kind of short, poppy kind of motions on a swing. Here is how you do this. First and foremost, you must understand that you have to see the ball coming. So here's what I'm gonna do. As we're dinking back and forth here, I'm gonna be watching Charles's paddle, and I'm gonna be focused on really watching to see what he does. When that happens, I'm able to take a stroke quite easily because I'm seeing it coming, right? It's exactly what I said in the intro. And then when I swing through the ball, I'm gonna have confidence to swing slowly, but give myself a little bit more length on the swing. So watch. So I swung very slowly through that shot, but my swing was also quite long, as you can see. But as long as I'm swinging slowly through it, it's fine. But I get so much more control when I swing this way. See how slow and methodical everything is. But the principle of it though, guys, is seeing that ball coming in the first place. That is extremely, extremely important. This principle applies everywhere for every single shot. The same thing applies to third shots as well. Going to take a slow, methodical swing, but before that happens, I'm going to see what's coming in the first place here. Get my feet in position, and then swing through the ball. See it coming. I'm using that thumb and the index finger that we talked about last time. Notice how I'm taking a full swing there, right? I'm really swinging, I'm taking quite a long swing, but because it's slow and methodical and because I'm in position beforehand, it's a lot easier to handle and a lot more consistent.
Don't you hate it when your opponent puts that nasty backspin on the ball? It sort of floats over the net, it hits the ground, it bounces really low, and you hit it into the net every single time. It's time to teach you how to control your opponent's spin shot. We are going to disarm your opponent by learning how spin works, but how to approach it.
The first thing I'd like to talk about is backspin. So, backspin is when the ball, as it's traveling towards your opponent, so think of it from a first-person point of view here, as it's traveling towards your opponent, the ball is spinning back towards you. So the front of the ball is spinning back. So if we look at it from this perspective here, so if the ball is traveling in this direction, and then I have the ball here like this ball is spinning this way. That is backspin. What happens when the ball lands on the court is that it's going to land softly and it's going to bounce quite low. You're going to see that in the clip when I do this. The other thing that's going to happen is if we look at it from the other direction, so let's just pretend that the ball is kind of heading like this, that way. What's going to happen is when it hits your paddle, it's going to bounce down. This is the tricky part. This is where people get messed up on all the time. So again, Charles here is hitting the ball towards me, and the ball is spinning back towards him, remember? So when it hits the paddle, it's going to, let me change the color here. It's going to come down. It's going to hit the paddle, and instead of just bouncing back up like this, it's actually going to bounce down. The reason is because the spin is going to hit that paddle and it's going to deflect downward. That is backspin. Now, the opposite of this, and the type of spin that is significantly harder to do, is topspin. Topspin is way harder to do than backspin, but we can still understand how to fight against it. So, same thing. As the ball is heading towards your opponent, topspin is when the top of the ball or the back of the ball is spinning towards your opponent this time. So if we draw the same graphic here, just draw an arrow like this, the ball is instead spinning that way. It's spinning over itself. And what happens is when a topspin shot hits the ground, it will aggressively bounce forward towards your opponent, and sometimes you can even bounce a little bit higher depending on how much spin is on there. There are other factors, by the way, for the bounce of the ball. Sometimes, you can hit like a dead spot, or maybe the ball is cracked or something like that. There's always going to be those variables, but the topspin is a significantly more aggressive shot. What happens, though, when it reacts on your paddle? This is the important part. This is the most important part to understand about defending against topspin when it comes to finesse. So let's draw it the other way. So Charles hits a topspin shot against me here, which you're going to see a lot of. The ball is spinning towards me. What is going to happen when it reacts off of your paddle face? It's going to do the opposite of backspin. It's not going to bounce down. It's going to bounce up. And it just doesn't bounce up. It explodes up. This is one of the big reasons why we use topspin in pickleball, because it makes the ball explode off of your paddle face, which causes a pop-up, which causes the overhead, right? That's one of the big reasons why we use topspin. So I'm going to teach you how to deal with these shots, but I want to give you a little bit of a primer here. So I'm going to teach you how to deal with these shots in the demonstration, but in general, when it comes to backspin, you have to learn how to hit up on the ball. When it comes to topspin, you got to learn how to hit down. That is pretty much it. This takes way more practice, but I've got some drills for you at the very end of the course. I'm going to show you how to deal with that.
Okay, so let's put these principles to use now when it comes to spin. I'm going to be using that half colored ball here just so that you can kind of see it. You'll be able to see a little bit of it here. So what Charles is going to do, Charles is going to hit back spinny shots at me, just back spin dinks. And then I'm going to apply what I know about spin to that shot, okay? So he's going to do a spin, and then I'm going to pick up the ball like that. That was a great example. Do you notice how low that ball bounced? Not only does it bounce low, but there's so much spin on it that I have to come underneath and pick it up. So let's try that again, okay? Spin, up, like that. You have to be super aware of when there is spin on the ball. Here is how you know when people are doing spin. I just want you to watch Charles' swing here. Let's do his backhand. I want you to notice something. Did you see how he came up and then either down or across? That's how you know spin is coming. The secret to this is not necessarily watching the ball for the spin. You can, obviously. The secret is watching the player. The player will let you know what kind of spin they're putting on the ball. Okay, see that? Now it's my turn to mess Charles up. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna be doing topspin. Topspin is the exact opposite of backspin when it comes to the swing. Instead of being up to down, we're going down to up. Now, how to do topspin is not a part of this course, okay? But what I wanna show you is how it functions. What you will see is the ball revolving over itself like that. And so, what Charles has to do is he has to approach these dinks properly. What's going to happen, as I said, is it's going to explode up off your paddle. Charles knows that, so he's got to watch for that, okay? So I'm going to give him really tough topspin dinks, and he just has to short hop him like that. He's hardly hitting these things, and they're really coming up off his paddle like that. Let me show it to you from this angle. So I'm going to be trying to hit the ball directly at the camera here. See that spin?
So how do we create finesse shots off of our opponent's spin shots? The first thing is body language. That is the absolute first and most fundamental thing. You can see spin coming before that ball is struck, but what's important to understand is that backspin is always going to be top to bottom, and then topspin is going to be bottom to top. That is always how it works. So understand, if you see someone swinging from here to here, that's backspin. If they're swinging down to up, that is topspin. That is kind of like your cheat sheet, so that once you really understand that and you see that stuff coming, you can then react accordingly. So when you know that stuff is coming over, with topspin, you got to hit a little bit more down on it. You got to hit much softer. But with backspin, you got to hit a little bit harder and try to scoop underneath the ball to interact with that backspin that's on the ball. And then you need to trust it. You just got to trust it, guys. You have to trust the fact that the spin is on there. This really is, like, when you begin to get to this point where you can trust it, a lot of stuff will begin to change, because then it'll become second nature. So that is how you deal with spin shots in pickleball. You can have finesse shots off of the spin shots whenever you want, but you have to understand these things. So please remember those things, practice them, but be patient with yourself, because this one's a little bit trickier.
Okay, on to the big one, blocking. So blocking is more about what you don't do rather than what you actually do. It's the most ironic thing about this sport. The more you try to fix your blocks and the more you try to do, the worse off you're gonna be. I don't ask, okay? But the less you do, the better. So it's just so weird, guys, because it's really simple. It's a very simple concept here, but it's obviously a lot harder to do. So you're gonna have to drill this. But when you're here and you're in this ready position like this, you have to learn. You 100% have to learn how to not push your paddle forward like this. That is so important. When I do lessons and stuff, almost everybody tries to push their paddle forward. If you have a hard shot coming your way, like I said in the pace video, you have to understand what's coming so you can gauge your response, right? And you have to learn how to bring the paddle into you, not out. That is going to change everything. You have to learn how to bring your paddle in. So what we're gonna do, and what you can do with a friend or whatever, have your friend hit hard shots at you and block them into the kitchen. Put like a towel or a cone or something like that in the kitchen and try to hit that towel or whatever. You can also use like a hula hoop if you want to. So stand a little bit behind the line. Don't forget the grip, right? Index and thumb. Don't leave your fingers off for this one. Keep your fingers on there, but just try to grip with the index and the thumb. The shorter your movement, the shorter your motion, the better. Keep it short and precise. Woo!
So what I'd like to give you is a deeper look at the blocking section here. So you've already seen this clip, but I want to show again. So here comes the ball, bounces in the kitchen. And the first thing that I want you to notice is I want you to notice where I'm looking. Obviously, I'm looking at the ball because that's what everyone does. But although I'm looking at the ball, I want you to pay attention to something else. I'm also looking at the body posture of my opponent here. I want you to notice something. Notice how far this paddle is coming back here, okay? That's a pretty deep backswing for a shot that probably should just be a dink. So what's going to happen? Obviously, he's about to hit it very, very hard. And that is crucial to understand here, because if I don't see the hard shot coming, then I'm not going to have any kind of chance to block the ball, right? So that's the first thing. I see the hard shot coming. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay as calm as I possibly can, because as long as I stay calm, I'm going to have a much better chance of hitting the ball. And I want you to watch my body language as it comes over. Notice how still I am. I'm just not going to fall for it, guys. I'm not going to fall for it. And I'm going to be as still and as controlled as humanly possible. And because I'm in that ready position, because I'm ready to go, it is just a simple movement of the paddle, and I let the ball impact. Notice how I barely push that ball forward, or that paddle forward. Maybe just a little bit, and that's it. And that's all it is. And then back into ready. Here it comes. Do a little split step. Here it comes again. Notice, see the paddle coming back? You see that? That paddle coming back is your sign. So I'm getting ready for it. I am now way ahead. I'm way ahead because I know it's coming. So here it comes. Same thing. Same deal. Gave it a little push there because I was trying to take some of the spin off. So I did this little backspin thing here and blocks it, and I just block it right back. So please try to stop doing so much. The more you try to do with these blocks against bangers, the worse off you're going to be. If you want more finesse in pickleball when it comes to these hard shots, you have to convince yourself to stop doing so much.
So the second part of this is what happens when you're actually at the kitchen line and you're getting these hard shots hit back at you. The key, the absolute number one thing you need to understand about this area is to do as little as possible. I love teaching this in my lessons because when I teach people how to just stop doing so much with these blocks, it changes everything. All of a sudden, they're getting way more of these blocks back, and it's putting the attacker at the disadvantage. The number one problem that people have with this shot is that they try to do too much. They try to swing too much. And when that happens, because they're swinging so much and it's taking so long to get their paddle in position, they end up being late, the paddle faces open, and that ball goes up into the air. And you know what happens next. So what's the key? The key is to think point A to point B. What I'm simply going to do is I'm going to raise my paddle up, put it into the path of that ball, angle the paddle down, and let the pace do the rest. Remember how we talked about if that pace is coming in hard, I don't have to swing very hard, right? That's that element of control that's so important. And because I'm letting the pace redirect off my paddle, I don't have to do anything. I'm using my opponent's pace against him. And that is super, super powerful, super awesome. Anyone can do this regardless of your skill level. That's what makes it so powerful. So if you do get hard shots hit at you 14 feet away, right in that kitchen, the key is to do quick, short motions. Be as quick and as precise as you possibly can. You will notice the difference. So there's a really cool way to practice all of this stuff all in one go, and that's what I'd like to show you now. Whenever you go out to the courts, maybe you show up 20 minutes earlier or something like that, give this little drilling pattern a run. I think it'll do great things for you.
I've got a court here, okay? And what I'm going to show you is, first and foremost, you need a drilling partner, obviously. Your drilling partner is going to stand right here on the line, and your partner will stay there the whole time. You, however, are going to stand here, and what you're going to start with is the grip. That's going to be the first thing. So you're going to do straightaway dinking while holding the paddle with the index finger and your thumb, and you're going to hold it like that, and you're going to do straightaway dinking. That's the first thing, okay? The second thing you're going to do is come over here and do cross-court dinking. Again, your drilling partner will stay there right on the line. So you do cross-court dinking with that index finger and the thumb. Then what you can do after that is head back over here, right here in the middle of the transition zone, so halfway between the baseline and the kitchen line, and you're going to do kitchen resets. So your drilling partner will hit hard shots at you. You reset those shots into the kitchen like we talked about in the blocking video. And then just take a few steps back, and you're going to be right here doing third shot drops. After you've done a decent cycle of that, I don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes, something like that, do it again, but then put most of your fingers back onto the handle like you typically would, and then do that just one more time. Here's the cool thing though, as I alluded to in the beginning of the video, is that you can very easily do this in a warm-up type of setting. And you know what? If you can't go cross-court because there's another player there, whatever. Just take a couple of steps back and just go ahead and do resets. Don't worry about the cross-court dinking. But you can very easily initiate this during a warm-up And what that does is it gives you finesse practice a lot more often than if you were to say, let's go out to drill, right? Because let's be honest, most of us play more than we drill, even though it's kind of supposed to be the opposite. So this is a very great way to get finesse practice. And the more you do this, the more often you're going to remember that during a match, and the more natural it's going to feel. That is how you slowly begin to implement this into your game.
Whew, I know that was a lot, but I've got this whole video split up into chapters so you can go back and view anything that you'd like. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments. I'll try to get to it as fast as I can. I hope that was helpful for you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time.